Hello and welcome back to Inquisitor Martyr. Last time we started the, Amber Void Crusade, and we'll keep going with that. I actually have to grab my map quick to figure out, I think it's this one we go to next. And the map says it is. We actually start from this mission and go straight up. We'll keep throwing cards in for now. Yeah, we'll keep going Psalm codes. I could see a point for shards, but we can always get those elsewhere.
Electrospectral scans have revealed that the Xenox artifact is nearby, but it is protected. You must access the cogitators to gain access. May the Omnisar guide your hand.
Oh, yeah, this is a secure the artifact. Okay, so I know what I'm doing here. I gotta run, trip the thing, have it say, hey, go find the door, hit the button, and then double back. Yeah, so I was thinking about Space Marine 2 recently, and I'm really interested in what they're going to do for the multiplayer. Because on one hand, they definitely could just use Chaos and just kind of reskin them, like reskin Space Marines. But there is the lore issue. I mean, we haven't heard any news other than the announcement, so it's going to be pretty far out. But, you know, I'm always interested. But we haven't heard lore regarding Chaos Space Marines and if they're getting a new version. Because, to my knowledge, they still have just generic Chaos Space Marines. They never got the Primaris treatment. Even though Fabius Bile apparently captured a few. So you think you'd start seeing clones or what have you show up for Chaos now? So that's a thing. But then the other option is to let players play as the Tyranids, which I don't know how people would really react to. Because at least for a standard multiplayer experience, Chaos and regular Space Marines are essentially the same. You know, oh, you get a plasma cannon at this level. Well, you're going to get a plasma cannon for both. Oh, you get a Reaper autocannon for Chaos. Well, you're going to get some equivalent for Loyalist Marines. There isn't a real radical change in anything. It's more or less a skin or maybe a slight stat tweak, but it's not anything major and discernible. But when it comes to, you know, the Tyranids, it's a lot different in how they function. And it also made me wonder, you know, would they follow in the steps of the original in how the multiplayer was structured, or would they kind of flip it around and go with, I would argue this would be a smart idea, is to go with a more Titanfall design. You know, players play as Space Marines, but you have a bunch of guardsmen or cultists running around. The only problem there is if you're gonna do NPC Chaos Cult versus NPC Guardsmen, there isn't a whole lot to really look at. Ooh, let's test this out. Yeah, see? This is what I was talking about last episode. It brought me to a loot room. So you have to check these. I mean, it wasn't the greatest loot room, but all the destructible things, something ought to come out of it.
Data transfer charms have been successful. Covert mission coordinates inloaded.
This is for the... Okay, yeah, this is for the, like, special mission. But yeah, I found one of these without it being a Void Crusade mission, and it led to a loot room, so... But yeah, that's cool. Didn't even realize it. I think it's actually on my map if I look again. Yeah, it says that this is a location for special stuff. But back to Space Marine stuff. If you do, we'll just generic name it the Lost and the Damned. The problem becomes, do you introduce demons? Because you could, if you really wanted to cheap out, Lost and the Damned is literally just renegade guardsmen. You don't have to do anything except reskin them. Oh, they might get an occasional sentinel that spawns to help out infantry. Well, you don't really need to do much, because that's kind of the big thing. You know, do you go a bit further with that? Do you swap it out for a chaos vehicle? It starts to kind of be an issue, because what do you use? You can't use a Predator tank, because a Predator tank, in a one-on-one, is likely going to beat out a Sentinel. So you're kind of stuck there. And I think, honestly, the Cultists are your best option. It's easy to identify them. And honestly, I just really like the idea of kind of using what Titanfall did. I know Halo kind of did it in Halo 4? 5? I think it was both of them. They had like the Warzone mode, where you had NPC Marines fighting, while you also ran around and fought Covenant and the Prometheans. I had to think what their name was. It's a cool idea. And I just like things that kind of make battlefields feel a little more alive and populated. Yes, you would have fights where it's just Space Marines, but, you know, who doesn't want more? And considering the increase in capability for games now, I feel like graphically we're in a safe place. I think now we need to start introducing more stuff on screen. Because I'm honestly just kind of tired of every game being like, we fit more high-resolution textures. Now everything's, 4K or 8K. It's like, I don't care. Realistically, how often do you stop and stare at a texture? As long as it isn't super muddy, you're not really paying too much attention. So it's like, I just want more stuff. And I think it'd be cool. Nobody else really has recently tried to leverage that design. And it's another, I think, big mistake that studios just haven't really acted on. If Behavior had really wanted to, and actually cared enough to try to keep Eternal Crusade alive, they could have tried to leverage that, but I mean, they had enough problems just getting the game to work as is. Also didn't help. God, I'm trying to remember the exact thing. What it essentially was you could pay for their, like, hey, you're now a premium person, and pick which fight you wanted to get into, or if you weren't premium, you just had to pick, like, play now. And that is the dumbest system I've ever encountered in my life. I've never seen a game that's like, oh, you actually want to pick what you're doing? Well, you have to give us money. And every time I think about that game, I'm just like, oh my god. It's Vietnam flashbacks of just horrible things and remembering even more horrible and stupid things and going, why? Oh, here, yep, okay. I got confused. I was like, wait, where did it put me that just put me, like, in front of guys? But I hadn't cleared to the door. Yeah, I was also contemplating picking up one of the boosts that lets you summon, like, a Space Marine. Because it's for 5 missions. And I was like, you know, that might not be a bad investment. I guess it really just depends on if I'm struggling. Right now, nah, I'm good. I'm doing so much damage and having my shields up for so long that I'm not even remotely concerned about my well-being. Alright, let's just collect this now.
Onwards! Don't linger, guardsmen!
Yeah, that's right. Warp Pillar, keep chasing me. Yeah, they really need to fix that stupid Warp Pillar. I don't know if it's in... It can't be intended to blink like that, because it looks terrible. The only thing I could see is that it actually has a health meter that it isn't showing. Like when you see these guys get hit, they blink. Only thing I can think is that it's the pillar's health depleting. But at that point, I just wouldn't put a health meter to it since it can't be affected by any other means. And I would just put, like, a timer. Yeah, we'll clear out the inventory. Fear, I don't think I have anything that causes fear. Not messing with that. I don't think I have Enraged State. If it was 5 stats, that'd be great. But it isn't. And I don't like the Biomancy boost, because I only have I think my, like, AoE bleed thing is Biomancy, I don't remember. But it's not worth it. Sword, no. Once again, it's only 4. That'd be really good. You know, trigger a 35% chance to trigger Thunderbolt of Authority upon hitting enemies with the stun gadget. So, you know, the gadget is the trigger, but also just flat health, warp resist. It's not that good. I'd have to re-roll a bunch, and it's not a 5 slot, so it's kind of lacking. Let me select, please. Pain. Okay. What does... Oh, Wandering Servo Skull. Okay. Oh god, please. I just want to select the thing. Like, riddle me this, Batman. I hit right on the D-pad, and it goes over to the left. Now, I'm just a random dude on the internet, but wouldn't you, just spitballing an idea here, make it so when you, let's say you're on this mission complete, when you hit left on the D-pad, it goes left. I hit it and it went right. Why? Why doesn't it follow the line to the next possible objective instead of me hitting up and it going down? It should just not do anything on up or down and say like, oh, well, you have to go right because the next one's to the right. Instead of this absolute hellscape of trying to figure out how to get to the next mission.
The sweet stench of imminent death. The craving for bloodshed before the battle. I wish I could be there with my battle brothers. Take the enemy head on. Lay waste to their strongholds and show no mercy.
I do have to say, this game, it's a good game, but there are parts of it that are very blatant. Like, this is a PC port, and kind of a bad one. Like when you target stuff with the flame pillar, and it just targets whatever's close to you, even though you're targeting and have something else highlighted. Trying to maneuver those maps for Void Crusades. Those are signs of a very bad PC port, or console port from PC. Like, I get it. You know, you're just trying to get it made and out, but man, it's tedious. It's not gonna, you know, make or break the game. But I will bitch. I will bitch to the end of days about it because it's bad. Don't do that.
With all defenders slain, raise the Imperial banner high. Onwards!
Which actually kind of reminds me, I've seen all this stuff that's like, oh, you know, the mobile market just keeps growing for games. And I always feel kind of weird because when you really, really break it down, you know, you look at like COD Mobile, you look at, there's some like discount Tarkov mixed with SOCOM game that just, it's for mobile and they just ported it to PC, which kind of makes this whole thing redundant, you know. Why did you bother when you could have just made it for PC then? But you see all that, and you look at like current world stuff, chip shortages, growing conflicts that will likely result in more chip shortages. Is it really wise to be investing in the mobile market? And on top of that, when you really break it down, it's an like, phones are underpowered. When you look at the graphic quality in these games and the processing and all that, you have at this point, you have a worse version of a Nintendo Switch that can make phone calls. Like, that's about it, if we're being 100% real. You know, you might as well just make, like, Nintendo, if they really wanted to just go nuts, they would just make a Switch and be like, yeah, we also put in phone capabilities. You know, slap a SIM card in there and you can play games and call people and text people. Because at that point, that's essentially what we would have. And realistically, I would just buy that. If I really wanted to play stuff on the go and have a phone, Yeah, it'd be big. I've seen phones that are enormous. They're like a small tablet.
Corrupted servo skull possessing important picked captures is trying to escape. You must disable the construct before it launches self-sacrifice protocols.
Where is it, though? But it's something I find very strange.
This fortified zone is finally ours. Blessed be the God Emperor. Capture the next one.
Alright, we'll just keep looking.
Failed to eliminate the corrupted servo skull. Confidential material.
Get off my ass, Ark. You didn't tell me where it was. You just said, hey, there's a servo skull, and it just disappeared. Like, how am I supposed to know? That is a little annoying, too. Is like, maybe I missed it, but I had no warning. It's just like, oh yeah, there's one somewhere, have fun. Cool, guy. But, as I was saying, just with the mobile stuff, it's really weird. Because it's just, we're reaching a point where you're either making a small handheld console, or you're just making, like, it's just becoming a console with a phone in it. And with all the shortages and stuff, I feel like it's not a wise idea to be trying to muscle into that market, and I see it all the time. You know, people point out, like, oh, COD Mobile does really good, and I'm like, yeah, how many games like it come out and die within a year or two?
The Emperor protects.
The exception to the rule is not the rule.
You serve the Emperor well, Inquisitor.
Wish that servo skull hadn't dipped, but not much I can do there. 10% damage bonus versus rebels. Okay. That is quite acceptable. And there's nothing special here, it's just the mission.
The very existence of this filth defiles the Imperium. They may be great in numbers, but if we sever the head, the body will die. Kill their leaders and break their will.
My innate completionist requires me to uncover all of the map just in case. Yeah, that servo skull sucks, but it's just intel, so I'm not as concerned. Because if this works out, 100%, I should be able to hopefully complete all the missions and get all the keys I need. And if I don't get the one intel, I should still hopefully get enough intel to know what the other chests contain. You know, it'd be cool. It really wouldn't mesh with this game very well, but it'd be kind of cool. Is like an origin perk. Being like, oh, you have a weird vein staff that's, made by the Inquisition. So, demons, and even it could just be demons or Xenos in general, actually it'd be probably, Ordo Hereticus would be good against Rebels and Chaos Space Marines. Then Inquisition would be good against probably like demons and psychers or something along that lines, where you get a bonus that's kind of an innate bonus for your gear. I just like the idea because I think it would add a bit of depth to some gear. And then you can sit there and be like, oh, well, this mission's going to be against, you know, Rebel Guardsmen, so I'm going to equip gear that is specifically tailored towards them. Or, if you really wanted to, you could sit there, like with the Ekru Void Crusade, it was, what was it, Tyranids and Eldar? You could have, you know, 2 parts of your loadout, since you can have 2 different weapon sets. Have one dedicated to Tyranids, one dedicated to fighting Eldar. This way you can kind of build it out that way, because getting the actual flat damage perks, they're like, oh, bonus damage against Demons of Chaos. They don't seem that common. And for what they're worth, they're not that great. Like, oh, would you rather have bonus % damage against one specific faction, or, you know, 20% damage against shocked enemies? Well, if I can shock guys easy, I want the damage against shock because that's going to apply to everybody. You know, things like that where it makes sense to maybe flesh out a couple extra things. Because I know, like, Destiny is finally bringing back those kind of origin perks. And it's another one of those things where I'm just sitting here going, really? You're backtracking on another design choice? I mean, it's good they're backtracking on it because they should have kept with it in the first place, but it's just one of those things where I'm just staring at it going, why? Why do you keep doing this? It just feels like mismanagement to the extreme. Which is disappointing. It's like, I've been playing off and on, and I haven't been too consistent on the story, so I looked up, you know, what happened in Season of the Splicer. Because I still wanted factions to come back. And it turns out, they just killed all of them. They're like, oh yeah, Savathun was influencing Lakshmi, the leader of Future War Cult, and now everybody's dead. I was like, really? This is full on like The Simpsons, what they did to Poochie, where he just goes, I must go, my people need me, and then it just puts a little thing on the screen that goes, Poochie was killed en route to his planet. That's all it was. It was just like, oh yeah, they died, moving on. It's like, no, don't do that. That's bad. That's stupid. I remember, because I still have a dead orbit hand cannon that I kept, because I knew they were never going to bring it back, because they kept stalling and going, oh, well, we wanted to add something of value, so we're not bringing them back until we think there's something good added. And I'm like, what was good is the fact they were faction unique, and you could have had faction origin modifiers. You know, you have the regular bonuses for a Tex Mechanica revolver, and then you have, you know, Dead Orbit modified Tex Mechanica. Okay, well, it changes a little bit of how the perk works. Cool, now it's a different gun. And they could have just kept with D1, you know, you rep a faction, you get stuff. If they really wanted to, and I've said this before, I think it's the stupidest idea. Game developers afraid to look at competition, but they could have looked directly at how factions work in Warframe, where you can sit down and go, oh, so all I have to do is rep a faction. By playing the game, I get points with these guys, and I can then turn them in for stuff. Like, yeah, that's it. You do some bounties, oh, kill this many guys, go do this boss, go smoke crack, you know, do whatever. You do that, you turn them in, you get some more points, and then you get rewards. I don't know how this was that difficult to comprehend. I mean, I get how difficult it is to comprehend. You know, when you're avoiding looking at competition, that'll happen. I mean, that's what happened with the Anthem. They flat out said in some of the dev interviews, they're like, yeah, we couldn't talk about Destiny. You know, we couldn't talk about competition. It's like, no, talk about competition. no matter what you do, people are going to say, like, oh, you ripped this off of this. You know, that's inevitable. But you can always alter it and stand out. You know, the reason things are the way they are in certain genres is because certain companies figured out, hey, this is the best way to do this, and it becomes the industry standard. You don't put square wheels on a car because you don't want to copy Ford. You put round wheels on a tire because they work. But what do I know? I'm just a dude on the internet. Nah, let's just go gank this guy up here since we're wandering around. Oh, I have to laugh. There's a studio, Demiurge Studios, they're working with Riot Games on something. Currently undisclosed. But I have to laugh. Simply because Riot was very cool with being called Riot Games while only having one game for years. And now they're just like, oh god, we need to actually put that S to good use. So they're just pumping out games. I do wonder what this new thing is gonna be, because it can't be just like Valorant, because they already have that. So is it their fighting game? Because yeah, I remember they had the fighting game they want to do. They have their auto chess thing. They have Valorant. I get it. They also have the Ruined King, that game that I do not remember what it even was. But it's like they have all these games that they're just mass producing. And my first thought is, aren't you just gonna tire out your core audience?
Imperial reconnaissance forces located. Potentially useful assets, but their current situation is terminal. Immediate action required. Reconnaissance forces.
Because I mean, that's what they're doing, what Disney's doing with Marvel right now, and Star Wars. They're pumping out so much crap, the quality's going down, and people are getting sick of it. I mean, you look at, like, honestly, just anything. Thunderbolts, half of the team, or almost half the team, is just people from the Black Widow movie. You look at all the shows, and the inconsistent writing, and mood, and all that. Or Star Wars, where there's just... I recently saw one of the stunt coordinators for Mandalorian flat out said Disney, like, they've done more damage to Star Wars. And I was like, yeah, they have. Mandalorian was the only good thing. And I mean, I'm a huge Boba Fett fan, and I thought Book of Boba Fett sucked. And people being like, oh, well, season 2 he could go to Nar Shaddaa. I'm like, he's a bounty hunter through and through. He shouldn't care. If anything, what he would do is likely, if he follows the books and expanded universe, he would go eventually to become Mandalore. But that's way, way in the future. See, that inoculator isn't bad, but I'm also not super enthused. Like, on one hand, I could see it having some value, but it's only HP regen for every vulnerability stack inflicted. Yes, I can stack vulnerability, But that's very specific. Nah, I don't really need it if we're being honest. Wait, I keep forgetting what kind of tokens I generate. Yeah, enraged tokens. I mean, that's not bad. It really isn't. It's just having the additional cast is kind of big. I mean, I could give up the shield if I really wanted to. The physical damage bonus is a waste. I don't do physical. I do. My circle ability does, but it's not too great. Honestly, a 5% critical hit chance isn't that strong. So we'll dump it. And I'll call it here. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the like button. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.